The shovel was heavy in Ellis's hands. He didn't lift it like a weapon, but he didn't drop it either. The woman stood 10 paces from him, her shotgun steady against her shoulder, finger hovering the trigger. I said, "Get out of my yard." "I ain't steal nothing, just starvin'." Her lip curled. "Everyone's starvin'." "What makes you special?" "Nothing." He swallowed hard. "But I can clean." "Hammer. Patch your roof. Whatever you need." She didn't blink, just stared like she was trying to remember if she'd seen his face before in a dream or a warning. "You got a name?" "Ellis." She paused, moved the barrel 2 inches off center, not all the way down. "You stink." "I'll wash." "You lie?" "Sometimes." Her eyes narrowed. "But not about being hungry," he added. They stood like that while the wind kicked dust at their boots. Then she clicked the safety off and lowered the gun. "You clean, you eat, but don't touch the stairs." His breath caught. "All right." "I mean it." I said all right. She didn't move. "The second your boots hit that top step, I'll put your head through the window." "Understood." "Good. Now drop the damn shovel." He let it fall into the dry grass. She stepped aside, motioned toward the front door. Inside, the cabin looked worse from up close. Boarded windows, weeds through the porch, chimney crumbling like it hadn't spit smoke in a decade. But the smell coming from inside told him someone was still cooking here. She followed him like a warden. The front room was dim, quiet, and cleaner than he expected. Not tidy, but deliberate, like someone kept a list in their head of what mattered and what didn't. "There's a broom. Buckets by the hearth. Start with the kitchen." "Can I eat first?" "You'll eat when I see the floor." He nodded and moved toward the back. The air shifted as he passed through the threshold. Warmer. He touched the table. Dustless. The counters cluttered but not rotting. A cracked mug held spoons, all facing the same way. "You live here alone?" "Is that a question or a judgment?" "Neither. Just wondering." "I was married. Once." Ellis glanced at her in the doorway. "You see him. Tell him he forgot the damn eggs." He didn't answer, just found the broom and started sweeping slowly, careful, like the wood might break under him. She watched him for a minute, then disappeared into another room. The silence came down heavily once she left, the kind that lived in places too long. The broom scratched against the floor in slow, awkward swipes. Dust kicked up from the corners, but there wasn't as much as he expected. Someone had already cleaned, just not recently. He moved to the cabinets, wiped the handles with his sleeve. Inside were cans lined up like soldiers. Beans, peaches, meat. Labels faded, some peeled halfway. None open. He reached for a rag on the sink. Stiff, used, still damp. Something about the whole place was off. He turned toward the stairs. They rose from the center of the cabin like a spine. Wide, old, sunken in the middle. The banister was wrapped in string, thin red twine looping over each spindle like a warning line. Ellis took a step forward, then stopped. "I told you." Her voice came from the side, sharper than the gun had been. She stepped into view, wiping her hands on a rag. Her eyes locked to his boots. "I wasn't just looking. You don't look at stairs like that unless you're planning to climb 'em." "I ain't." She crossed her arms. "You always talk this much?" "Only when I'm trying not to get shot." Her mouth twitched, almost a smile, then it vanished. "I'll tell you once more," she said. "Don't touch the stairs. Don't stand on them. Don't look up there like it's something meant for you. That floor doesn't belong to you." "Got it." "You don't get nothing. You just heard me. That's different." He nodded and turned back toward the sink. There was a small pile of ashes in the corner near the stove. He bent down and scooped it up, brushing flakes into the dustpan with his hand. Something white caught his eye, buried in the soot. A scrap of paper. He pulled it out, careful, half burned, written in blue ink. "Papa, I missed the sound you made when you came home. Mama says you're sleeping now." I heard the well laugh again. Ellis blinked, looked up toward the stairs. "What do you find?" He turned, startled. "Nothing. Just ash." She stepped forward, took the pan from his hands and dumped it into the stove. "Don't go fishing on things that are already burned." "I wasn't clean. Eat. Sleep. That's the deal." He looked at her, searching for some softness behind the edge. "I didn't find it." She walked past him toward the back. Her boots creaked on the boards. "You finish that floor, I'll make you eggs," she said. "If I don't find you near the stairs again." He nodded, even though her back was already turned. As she vanished into the other room, he turned once more toward the banister, The string was still wrapped tight, but one of the knots was loose. The broom moved slowly under Ellis's hands. Every sweep kicked up a little more than the last, dust that stuck to his sweat, bits of something dark in the corners, crumbs, hair, shreds of paper. The woman wasn't in the room, but he still worked carefully. She had a way of hearing without showing up. He reached under the stove and pulled out a rusted biscuit tin, empty. The lid clattered too loud when it slipped. He winced. Nothing happened, just silence. Then the faint squeak of a chair somewhere deeper in the house. He kept going. Under the table, behind the crates stacked against the pantry wall, he knocked one over by mistake. Cans spilled across the floor, rolled like they were used to doing it. He reached to grab one, paused. Someone had carved a name into the label, small and shallow, like with a nail. Greta. He turned it over. It was Peaches, same kind as the others, but this one had a line of wax sealing the lid, not dusted like the rest. He put it back. You clean quietly. Ellis jumped. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, trying not to break anything. Good luck. He stood up. You got someone else living here? Her eyes narrowed. You see someone. Number just feels like more than one person. She didn't blink. You live here alone? Is that a question or a judgment? Neither. Just wondering. I was married. Once Ellis wiped his hands on his jeans. You see him, tell him he forgot the damn eggs. She turned and left again. The chair creaked a second time. Ellis moved to the fireplace. The ash bin was half full, damp near the bottom. Not cold, though. It held a warmth like something had been lit not long ago. He dug his hand in, scooping into the bucket. His fingers closed on something hard. He pulled it out slowly. It was a doll. Cloth body. Porcelain face, cracked down one cheek. The dress was pink under the soot, lacy at the collar. The buttons on its front were sewn with blue thread, uneven and childlike. It hadn't burned. Ellis turned it over. A name stitched onto the foot. Lacey. He stared at it for a long second before placing it gently back in the ashes. Then he stood, wiped his hands on the edge of the hearth, and kept sweeping. The floorboards beneath the stove were warped. One corner lifted when he brushed past. He nudged it with his boot, heard a creak. He knelt, ran his fingers along the edge. Dry wood splintered, a nail rusted halfway out. He looked toward the doorway. She wasn't there. He worked his fingers under the plank, pulled. It gave with a groan. Beneath it, darkness, then paper, stacked tight, folded, yellowed, and curled with time. Dozens, maybe more, all tucked into the space like someone meant them to stay hidden. He reached in and pulled one free. It was an envelope, no stamp, just a name, written in thick pencil. Papa. Ellis turned it over. The seal was broken. He slid the letter out and unfolded it slowly. Papa, I didn't mean to knock over the lantern. I was just trying to feed the dog. Mama said you'll be mad, but not forever. Please don't stay in the well again. I hate when you hum. His hands tightened around the page. The paper trembled. The voice came from behind him, quiet and sharp. What you doing down there? He turned fast. She was standing with a bowl in her hands. Steam rising, smelled like eggs and onions. The floorboard was lifted. I thought maybe mice. She didn't blink, just stared at the envelope. You read it. He held up the letter. Found it just now. That wasn't the question. He didn't answer. She walked in, slow steps, set the bowl on the table, pulled out a chair, and sat. Have you ever written letters? Once, a long time ago. You ever send one and wish you didn't? Only ever sent one. She nodded, like that meant something to her. Are you hungry? Ellis nodded. Then sit. He stood, moved toward the table, sat across from her. You like onions? They're fine. Then eat. He picked up the spoon. The eggs were soft, steaming, flecked with black pepper. She didn't serve herself, just watched. You got kids? He asked, not looking at her. No. He paused. Whose doll is it? What doll? In the ash. She didn't answer. He looked up. Do you burn toys often? She held his stare. That board, he said, nodding toward the floor. It wasn't nailed shut. Maybe I wanted it found. Did you write this? She didn't move. You think I got a kid hiding in the walls? I think someone lived here after you. Maybe they still do. The wind outside howled against the siding. Ellis looked down at the eggs, chewed slowly. "Have you ever been to a place where the walls don't forget?" she asked. He didn't answer. She leaned back, cracked her knuckles. "I had a brother once. I liked to read out loud, even when nobody asked. Wrote letters to people he never met. Said if you talk to ghosts long enough, they start talking back." Ellis pushed the empty bowl away. "What happened to him?" "He started listening too hard." She stood, picked up the bowl. "You find more letters. You keep 'em in your pocket, not your mouth." She turned toward the sink. He stood. "Don't I get a blanket?" She didn't look at him. "There's one by the hearth." He moved toward the fire, picked up the blanket, turned back. But she was gone. Just the sound of water dripping, and the floor creaking above him. The morning started cold, and too quiet. Ellis didn't ask for breakfast. She didn't offer. He waited until her boots walked out of the back door, then rose from the hearth blanket and knelt where the floorboard had lifted the day before. The letter he'd read was still in his pocket, folded 4 times, pressed flat by sleep. The floor groaned under his knee as he worked his fingers beneath the wood again. He pulled up the same plank, slower this time. The stack of envelopes hadn't moved. He reached deeper. The paper was packed tight, more than he could count at a glance. Some bent, some curled, some crumbled at the edges like they'd been wet once and dried too late. All had the same name scrawled on the front, Papa. Different hands. Some letters were written in shaky loops, some square and careful, some barely more than scratches, like a child who never learned their lines. He pulled 3 and tucked them in his coat. The broom waited in the corner. He picked it up and resumed sweeping like nothing had happened. She came in through the back door carrying a bucket of water. Her eyes tracked the floor. "You cleaned the ash bin." "Did. Check the root cellar." "Wasn't told to." "You need an invitation now." "I don't like being shot." She set the bucket down. "What's in your pocket?" "Handkerchief." "Try again." He stood still, said nothing. Her eyes moved to the wall behind him. "You pulling my walls apart. There's letters in here. Then put 'em back." He didn't move. "Something wrong with you?" she asked, sharper now. "They ain't normal." She stepped forward, slow. "Ain't nothing normal out here. I mean, they're written like the past forgot how to stay buried." She stopped 3 feet from him. He could see the bone-white scar cutting down the left side of her throat now. He hadn't noticed it before. "Don't talk like that. They're signed by kids." "Is that so?" "One said you got buried wrong. Another said the well's making noise." "You think I wrote 'em all myself?" "I think I don't know what I think." "Then don't think." She stepped back, wiped her hands on her skirt. "Clean, then come to the table." He didn't put the letters back. That night, after she'd gone to bed, or at least disappeared behind her door, he lit the fire low and unwrapped the folded envelopes. The first one was short. "Papa, the well's making noise again. It ain't water this time. It talks in a voice like yours but deeper." He set it down. The second, "Papa, Mama says you got buried wrong. Said they folded you up too tight, and that's why you knock. I try to stay awake. I will try real hard." He read the third twice. The handwriting looked like it had been written while crying. "Papa, you promised me the dog wouldn't burn." Ellis rubbed his hands over his face. He stood and paced once, then sat back down and read them again. The ink on the third one was still glossy in places. The paper smelled faintly of firewood and damp cloth. He returned to the wall. Not the hole under the floorboard this time. The space near the hearth had a warped board. He'd seen it when he swept earlier. He pried it gently, felt air slip through the crack. Behind it, more envelopes, some tied with twine. Others are stuffed like afterthoughts. A handful had drawings on them, stick figures, crude sketches of dogs, eyes, stars, wells. He pulled one. The paper was thicker, yellowed. The name Papa was written in cursive, elegant but fading. This one had a scent, perfume, faint, floral, not new. He held it up to his nose. Lilac, maybe lavender. It hit him with the sudden clarity of something too gentle to belong here. He didn't open it. Not yet. His hand shook. Anyway, he placed it on the table and sat, stared at it like it might speak first. The fire behind him cracked. A floorboard above him popped. Ellis stood slowly. I turned to face the stairs. The twine was still looped around the banister, but it looked looser now. The bottom knot hung like it had been pulled once. He turned back. The envelope still sat in the center of the table. He picked it up. "Why him?" he muttered, Voice barely louder than breath. Why always him? He hadn't said it to anyone, not even her, but it filled the space like it was already part of the house. Footsteps creaked behind the bedroom door, then silence again. Ellis held the letter over the flame, waited. His fingers didn't let go. He set it back down and pressed both hands against the table. He was still sitting there, eyes locked to the envelope, when the woman came out an hour later. She looked at the fire. I looked at the wall. I looked at him. You didn't put him back. No. You read more. Yeah. She walked over and picked up the envelope. You smell it? I did. She nodded like it mattered. That one's real. Real how? She didn't answer. You keep 'em for a reason, he said. She stared at the fire. Doesn't mean I want 'em read. Then why hide them when they whisper? She turned to him suddenly. You think the walls don't breathe? You think I don't hear it? It ain't just wind in this house. It's teeth. It's memory chewing slowly. Ellis stood. He couldn't sit anymore. You said your husband forgot the eggs. Is that a joke? No. He waited. He left one morning, said he was going to the store, took his boots, didn't take his gun. How long ago? Long enough that I don't pray anymore. She looked down at the envelope again, ran a thumb over the name. That one's real, she said again. Who wrote it? She opened her mouth. I closed it, then handed it back to him. You hold on to it, but don't open it unless you want to carry what's inside. Ellis took it. His hands were still shaking. Ellis waited until her boots disappeared behind the back door again. The sun had barely cracked the sky, but he'd been up longer. He hadn't slept. Not really. Just stared at the rafters above the hearth, the envelope still in his pocket, pressing against his ribs like it had grown heavier overnight. He stood, stretched the stiffness from his spine, and walked into the kitchen. The stove was cold. The fire in the hearth had long gone quiet. He poured a ladle of water into the tin basin, splashed his face, then turned toward the wall. She was already there, standing dead still in the hallway, arms folded, eyes sharp. You going back to the wall? I might. You think something changed overnight? Feels like it. She watched him, not blinking. What's in there? That matters to you, she asked. I don't know yet. Then stop looking for it. He stepped closer. I need to ask you. Then ask. He pointed toward the space under the floorboard, toward the hearth, the corner near the warped baseboard. All these letters, all of them addressed the same. Different hands, different years. Some old, some fresh. She didn't move. What do they mean? She tilted her head. What do you mean? You said you were alone. I am. You said your husband left. He did. You said you didn't have kids. I said I didn't lose one. You think I can't tell the difference? She turned away. You think I wrote him? Did you? No. Then who did? She looked over her shoulder. You hear him too. The voices. She didn't answer. Ellis took a breath. There's names in there. Lacey, Greta. One of them called him preacher. One called him sheriff. One said he hums in the well. She stared at the window. The well doesn't hum. It talks. No. Then what the hell does it do? She walked past him, slow. Whatever it wants. Ellis followed. Do you even know who Papa is? She didn't stop. Or is that just a name you let rot in the wall like everything else? She turned then, eyes sharp. Don't talk about my house like it's yours. I ain't trying to own it. I'm trying to understand it. You think this place cares if you understand it? I think maybe it should. She looked at him for a long time. Then she stepped closer, voice low. This place was here before I was born, and it'll be here long after I rot. You think you're the first man to walk in here with questions? They don't matter. Ellis stood silent. Then why keep the letters? Because forgetting is louder than remembering. They both went still as something thudded above them. A dragging sound. Ellis looked up. You got raccoons? No. Cats? No. Then who the hell? Nobody lives upstairs. Another thud. Ellis reached for the broom handle near the door, tightened his grip. You gonna tell me what's up there? I already did. There's footsteps. There's memory. He started toward the stairs. She stepped between them. You remember what I said? Yeah. Say it. Don't touch the stairs. She held his eyes. Another step overhead. This one is slower. Ellis looked up again. His hand clenched the broom tighter. I can't stay in here tonight. Then don't. I mean it. Then leave. I'm not leaving for good. I didn't ask you to. He stepped back. You got a shed? Out past the stump. Locked? No. Can I take the blanket? She nodded once. He grabbed the thin wool off the hearth and slung it over his shoulder. She didn't stop him when he walked out of the front door. The sun was dropping fast behind the trees. The wind had gone colder. The shed leaned to one side, a rusted hinge holding the door half open. Inside, old tools, a broken rocking chair, and the dry smell of pine dust. He set the blanket down in the corner, sat with his back against the wall. The roof creaked once, twice. He stared up, heart slow but loud. No footsteps this time, just the sound of something breathing. Not deep, not fast, but not his own. He lay down anyway, and didn't sleep. The shed breathed cold into Ellis's spine. He hadn't slept, just leaned in the corner, listening, waiting. No footsteps, no breathing this time. Just silence, thick as dirt. He stood near Dawn, blanket still wrapped around his shoulders, and moved to the shelf by the broken rocking chair. A crate sat half covered in burlap. He pulled it down, brushed dust off the top. Old nails, cracked cloth, a broken comb, then a photograph. Bent at the edges, milky from time. 5 children lined up in front of the cabin, clothes rough, bare knees smudged with dirt. Behind them stood a woman, her. Younger, softer-eyed. Standing to the left was a man, but his face was blurred. Time or fingers had smudged it away. Only the shape remained, broad-shouldered. Hat tipped low. On the back, written in black pencil, Papa never smiled. Ellis stared at it long. The children weren't smiling either. He walked to the cabin with the photo tucked in his coat. The woman stood on the porch like she knew he'd be back. You lied. You cleaned my floor and broke my wall. He stepped up. Who was he? A sheriff, a preacher, a man. Take your pick. You married him? Don't think it matters now. It does if he's still up there. She didn't blink. What happened to him? She looked past him toward the field. Wind moved through the grass. Her voice was low. He forgot. You ever try to remember him right? No such thing as right when you remember someone like him. Ellis pulled the photo from his coat. Hold it out. I found this in the shed. She didn't take it. That boy there, he said, pointing. Second from the left. His hands bleedin'. Looks like somebody held it too tight. She looked at the photo without reaching. I remember that day. Who took it? He did. Ellis lowered the photo. He is the kind of man who likes having his name on every wall. She stepped back. You still think this is about names? I think maybe it's about people you tried to bury. Not everything buried stays dead. You said he forgot. Doesn't mean he stayed gone. She turned, opened the door, and walked inside. Ellis followed. She didn't stop him this time. In the kitchen, she filled the kettle, set it on the stove, lit a match. The fire clicked up like it remembered its job. He watched her in silence. She didn't speak until the water hissed. You found the picture. You have questions, but I have rules. He waited. You still hear him? I heard the roof move. That ain't him. Then who? She didn't answer. The kettle spit steam. She poured water into 2 chipped mugs. No tea, no coffee, just hot and plain. You're well, Ellis said. Does it ever dry up? She handed him a mug. No. You draw from it? No. Why? She met his eyes. He listens from there. Ellis didn't move. She took a sip, swallowed hard. I went near it once after he left. Heard someone call my name in a voice that wasn't his, but close enough. Close enough to freeze every bone I had. What did it say? Just, come here. Soft. Like it missed me. Ellis tightened his grip on the mug. Have you ever lost a child? She asked. No. You ever wish someone would come back, even if it meant not sleeping again? He said nothing. She set her mug down. I didn't write those letters, Ellis, but some of 'em ain't lies. Who wrote 'em? I don't know. Then why keep 'em? Because he always comes back, one way or another. Ellis stepped back, set his mug down. I need to see the well. No, I ain't askin'. She turned and walked toward the hallway. At the end, she opened a door hidden behind a hanging quilt. A wooden staircase led down. Cool air rolled up from below. She looked at him once. Don't go near it, she said. He listens from there. Then she walked away, left the door open, left the warning behind her like it was just another part of the house. Ellis woke cold. The floor of the woodshed had turned harder overnight. The blanket hadn't helped. His breath left soft clouds in the dim morning light. He rolled onto his side, reached for his satchel behind the broken crate, but his fingers found empty wood. He sat up slowly. I looked around. It was gone. He stepped outside fast, heart tight, circled the shed once. Nothing. No footprints in the frost. No drag marks. Just brittle grass and the edge of the tree line watching him like a line he wasn't meant to cross. He followed the path back to the house. The woman was already there, splitting wood by the stump, her sleeves rolled to the elbows, face calm, like nothing had shifted. "You see my pack?" he asked, voice still dry from sleep. She didn't look up. "What's it look like?" "Worn leather, rolled tight. I left it in the shed. You leave things loose, they get taken." "By who?" She shrugged. "You move it?" "No." He stepped closer. "You sure? Wouldn't lie about something so small." "You've lied about being bigger." That got her to look up. Her eyes were sharp again. Familiar. "Are the roads still open?" he asked. She set the axe down gently. "You want to go?" "I think I should." She nodded toward the woods. "Go on then." He didn't wait for more. Took the trail leading away from the cabin, the one that curved around the dry creek and split at the fork near the bend. His boots made no sound on the frozen ground. He made it as far as the bridge, or where the bridge used to be. The creek wasn't dry anymore. The water moved fast and wide, muddy with the storm that must have hit overnight. The bridge lay collapsed in pieces downstream, boards split and twisted, nails sticking out like teeth. He stood there for a long time, just staring, then turned back. She was still at the stump when he returned, this time sharpening the axe, slow and patient. "Didn't make it far. The bridge is gone. Rain must have hit hard last night. You could have told me." "You didn't ask." He walked closer. "I think you're keeping me here." "Is that so?" "I think you know damn well there's no way out for now." She didn't stop sharpening. "You ever think maybe the land just wants you here? I think you want me here." Flattering. He stepped closer, voice low. "Why?" "You eat my food, break my walls, and now ask why you're still breathing under my roof?" "Because you're scared." "Of what?" He watched her carefully. "Not of me." She finally stopped, set the axe down. I stood straight. "Have you ever killed anyone, Ellis?" "Why?" "'Cause you flinch like you have." He didn't answer, just looked past her, toward the edge of the woods, toward where the wind bent the trees in one direction, then another. "You." "Once." He nodded. "Do you regret it?" "No." The quiet between them thickened. She bent, picked up the axe again. "Clean the hearth. It's looking clogged." He didn't move. "Now," she said. Ellis turned toward the house. His steps felt heavier than before. Inside, the fire had burned out, just char and soot left behind. He knelt by the hearth and reached in with the iron poker. Ash shifted under his touch. Something dry scraped against the bricks. He pulled out a letter, blackened at the edges but still sealed, the same name on the front, Papa. He stared at it, hands trembling. His fingers smelled like soot and thyme. He stood, walked back into the kitchen. She was at the table now, slicing carrots into a pot of cloudy water. "You say you didn't write these." "I didn't." "You say you don't know who did it." "I said some are real, some ain't." "Have you ever opened one?" She didn't look up. "I don't need to." "Why not?" "'Cause I remember what I buried." He set the envelope on the table. This one was in the hearth. She picked it up, turned it over. "I burned that one 3 winters back." "It didn't take." She held it to her nose. "I can still smell the fire on it." Ellis took a breath. "Have you ever slept?" She didn't answer. "Not really, huh?" "Sleep invites things." He nodded. "I heard whispers last night." "I know." "From the fire." She finally looked up. That's where he first spoke. Ellis sat down across from her. "Have you ever opened the cellar?" "No." "Why?" She stared at the window. "Because he listens from there." "You believe that?" "I don't need to believe it. You think it's him. I think something used his voice, and that's enough. You buried him there?" She didn't answer. He leaned in. "You say he was a sheriff, a preacher, a man." She nodded. "Does he ever smile?" "No." He leaned back. "I read a letter that said the dog screamed." She winced. "You knew about that?" "I heard it happen." Ellis closed his eyes. The fire in the hearth cracked behind him. He opened them. What did you do? I left the door open. She stood, took the pot off the stove, poured the water down the sink. He watched her. I'm not going to stay here much longer, he said. You think it'll let you leave? You think it'll stop me? She wiped her hands on her apron. Number, I think it already knows you. That night, Ellis didn't lie in the shed. He stayed inside, near the hearth, letters stacked in front of him like offerings. He opened one more, this one in ink, faded gray, the loops elegant but shaky. Papa, if you find this, you're next. He didn't move for a long time after that, not even when the fire hissed and the cellar door creaked open on its own. Ellis waited until the fire burned low, until the wind rattled the window glass like fingers testing for weakness. The woman had gone to her room, or somewhere behind the hall's dark mouth. No footsteps, no doors closing, just the hush of the cabin breathing. The red twine still wound around the banister, looser now, barely holding. He touched the bottom rail, waited for his chest to tighten. It didn't. He climbed the first stair, then the second. They groaned like they didn't want him. At the top he stopped. The air was still, not heavy, not cold, just paused. Like time had forgotten this place. The hall stretched short. 3 doors, 1 open, 2 closed. Dust floated midair, but never settled, like it didn't know how. The open room waited at the end. He stepped inside. 1 bed, unmade but clean. A quilt tucked halfway down, folded with too much care to be accidental. On the dresser, a porcelain comb, pale and cracked. Next to it, a jar of buttons, all white. The wallpaper was yellowed, peeling at the corners, covered in a faded pattern of bluebirds, some scratched out with something sharp. But it was the door that stopped him. Hung on a nail just above the handle, a child's dress, sky blue, smocked, hand-stitched. It swayed slightly, though no breeze touched it. He moved toward it, reached out, didn't touch. The tag inside read, Lacey. He turned away. His heart was slow now, but hard. Every beat echoed in his ears. He crossed to the nightstand. A Bible lay open. Romans, chapter 12. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. The margins had been underlined over and over, not in ink, but in nails, deep gouges. Letters pressed hard enough to splinter the paper. He touched the edge of the page and felt the pulse in his fingertips jump. Then he saw it. Another letter, on the pillow, crisp, white, still damp at the corner like the ink hadn't dried. He picked it up, his name on the front. Ellis. Not Papa, not someone else. Him. He opened it with both hands. You took the job. You know the cost. That was all. No signature, no date. He dropped it. The air changed. Something moved behind him. He turned. Nothing there, but the dress was still swaying. He stepped back fast, hit the bed frame. A low hum filled the room. Not loud, barely there, but it came from the floor, or the walls, or maybe the Bible. He grabbed the letter and backed out of the room. The hum followed. He reached the stairs and took them fast, the air pressing harder with each step down. When his boots hit the main floor, the noise stopped, but she was already waiting. At the base of the steps, holding the old rifle, her finger just off the trigger, he froze. You went up. I had to. No, you didn't. There's a letter. I know. It's addressed to me. I know that too. He held it up. How? Because you took the job. What job? She didn't answer. Her hands were steady. You left it for me. No. Then who did? You think I'm in charge of this? You're holding the gun. Her jaw tightened. To keep us both alive. Ellis stepped off the final stair. I didn't ask for this. None of us did. He held out the letter. This says I did. She looked down at the rifle, then back at him. You broke the rules. They were already broken. Now we're both in it. He stared at her. What does that mean? She stepped aside. You'll find out. The letter crinkled in his hand. The dress still hung above, but the hum had followed him down. And it wasn't done. The letter stayed on the table all night. Neither of them touched it. Neither of them spoke its words aloud. Ellis sat with his arms folded, jaw tight. She kept near the stove, stirring water that never boiled. Outside, the wind moved in circles, hitting the windows without rhythm, like it had nowhere else to go. At dawn, they moved together without talking. She brought the chair. He brought the dresser. They dragged them both to the cellar door. A heavy chest followed, one he hadn't seen before. It scraped along the floor as they pushed it into place. The weight pressed into the wood like it wanted to stay there forever. Ellis looked at her. "That's enough." She shook her head and added the table. By the end of it, the hallway looked like a barricade. The cellar door was gone under wood and silence. He stepped back, sweating. "You think he'll come up through that?" She shrugged. "I don't know if it matters." Ellis rubbed his hand across the back of his neck. "I need answers." She didn't speak. "You said I took the job." "What job?" "The one the house picked you for." "I didn't ask to be here." "You showed up starving. That was enough." He sat down hard on the edge of the hearth. "Start talking." She stayed standing, arms crossed. "His name was Wardell," she said. "Came here in a black coat and a preacher's voice. Said he was going to save this place." Ellis watched her carefully. "But when no one got saved," she went on, "they made him sheriff." "Does that happen a lot around here?" "You'd be surprised." She walked toward the window, touched the edge of the curtain like she needed something to hold on to. "He said women were wild by nature. I needed taming, needed correction." "And you?" "I was 16. Ellis leaned forward, elbows on knees. "What did he do?" "He taught me silence." Ellis's voice dropped. "What did you do?" "I screamed anyway." She looked over her shoulder. "And they didn't like that." Ellis nodded once. "I tried to run twice," she said. "Made it to the edge of the grove, but I heard his whistle both times. And I turned back. Like a dog." Her hands were shaking now. "And the kids?" Ellis asked. She swallowed hard. "They wrote to him." "When was he alive?" "After." He stared. "After what?" She didn't look away this time. "After the house burned." "And he didn't." Ellis stood. "You mean he survived the fire?" "I mean the fire came for him, and it wasn't enough." She turned toward the hallway. The cellar door groaned behind the weight of their furniture. "You buried him?" "I dragged what was left of him to the well." "And he stayed there?" "For a while." Ellis took a breath. "What made him come back?" "He never left. You just got quiet enough to hear him." The room dropped into stillness. Ellis turned toward the hearth. The fire had gone out again, but the coals still glowed under the ash, like they were waiting. "Have you ever opened the well again?" he asked. She shook her head. "Only once." "When?" "Right before the letters started." Ellis turned back to her. "You think the kids wrote them?" "Number I think the house did." "Why?" "To keep him fed." The wind picked up again. A low whistle pressed against the windows. Ellis walked to the cellar. Barricade. The chair creaked. The dresser shifted half an inch. Then it slid back into place. He looked at her. "I don't know what to do." "You read the letter. You already started." "I didn't agree to anything." She stepped forward. "You stayed, didn't you?" "I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice." He turned to her, angry now. "And what was yours?" She didn't answer. "I think you kept this going." Her voice was flat. "I think I survived." He opened his mouth, then stopped. Something scratched at the wood behind the furniture. They both froze. The scratching turned into dragging. Slow, like fingers pulling across stone. Then a letter slid out. Right from the bottom crack in the door. Unburnt, folded sharp. New paper. Ellis bent down. I picked it up. No name on the front. He opened it. One line. "I forgive you. Let me out." He looked at her. She was already backing away. "No." Ellis stared at the words again. "You believe it? Does it matter?" He folded the letter, tucked it into his coat. The wood groaned behind him. Something pressed gently, like it didn't want in just yet, just wanted to remind them it still could. Ellis stood still. Then he whispered, "The well keeps time." And behind them the fire hissed. Ellis sat with his back against the cold wall, knees pulled in, hands buried under his coat. The letter was still in his pocket. The one that said, "I forgive you. Let me out." He hadn't told her what it said. Didn't have to. Her silence had already guessed it. The cellar was quiet now. No more scratching, no more sliding paper, just the weight of the barricade and the silence of something waiting. She was by the window, one hand resting on the frame, the other clutched an old rag. The light made her look older than before. Hollowed, Ellis closed his eyes. "I wasn't headed anywhere when I showed up here," he said. She didn't answer. I wasn't wandering like a man looking for a place. I was running. Still nothing. I left someone. She turned halfway toward him. Not a woman. He said, a boy. 9. Maybe 10 by now. She watched him now. Still quiet. I wasn't supposed to have him, not really. I wasn't ready. Mama dropped him with me one day and never came back. I kept him for a while. I did my best. But I started seeing things in him I didn't want to see in me. His voice cracked. He pushed his face into his sleeve, wiped hard. I told myself I was keeping him safe, that if I left, he'd be better off. She took one step forward, then stopped. But I still see his eyes, Ellis whispered. They follow me, even now. And when I read them letters, you think they're about him? She asked. Number, but they feel like they could be, like he's writing from wherever I dropped him. She walked to the table, sat down across from him. You said you had no kids, he said. She met his eyes. I didn't say I didn't lose one. He swallowed hard. I was 16, she said. Wardell had already carved my future out of the church pew. Said I was chosen. Said he had God's voice in his mouth, and I'd be the mother of something righteous. Ellis didn't speak. I buried the child behind the willow. No name, no marker, just memory, and that's the loudest grave there is. He leaned forward. What if this whole house remembers wrong? She nodded slowly. Then we write it again. They sat there a long time, just breathing in the quiet. She stood and walked to the hearth, picked up the ash bucket, emptied it, then knelt and began stacking the letters one by one. Ellis joined her. They didn't speak, just moved slowly, methodically, each envelope placed into the hearth like a folded prayer. Some were damp, some crumbled, some smelled faintly of rosewater or smoke, but all of them bore that same name, Papa. And then they lit the flame. The fire didn't roar. It started slowly, carefully, as if it, too, needed time. The paper caught. The edges curled. One by one, the letters turned black, then vanished. They didn't stop until the last one. It sat there, clean, white. Ellis reached for it. It was the one addressed to him, the one from upstairs. He tossed it into the center of the flame. The fire licked it. The ink bled, but it didn't burn. It just sat there, untouched, surrounded by embers. She stepped closer. Why won't it catch? Ellis stared. Because it ain't finished with me yet. The letter sat in the fire like it didn't care. The flames curled around it, tried their best, but it stayed white. Edges clean, ink unmoved. Ellis didn't touch it. He just watched. Something about it felt like a dare. She stood beside him, arms crossed. The flames danced in her eyes, but her face stayed unreadable. Then the letter twitched, just once, like a breeze had touched it. It flipped over, slowly. Then it opened itself. The fold peeled back like fingers undoing a shirt button. Ellis didn't breathe. There were only 3 lines inside. Ellis, I remember what you left behind. I remember who you were before the running. He backed up from the hearth. You see that? He asked. She nodded. He turned. That wasn't already open. No. You read it. I don't need to. He reached into the flames, pulled it out barehanded. No heat. It didn't even smoke. He read the lines again, felt each word press against his chest like a weight settling into old bruises. You told me you were hungry, she said. I am. But you never said what for. He looked up. I never thought I had to. She took a slow breath. That letter knew your name before I did. That scares you? It should scare you more. He paced to the window, hands shaking. The glass was fogged with breath from both of them. But outside, the land looked too still. The trees didn't move. The air held its breath. The wind had stopped, but something groaned. A long, heavy creak. He turned toward the sound. It came again, from the cellar. They both walked toward it, drawn like they were tethered. Each step is quiet, careful. At the edge of the barricade, they froze. The chair shifted by itself. Then the dresser. The heavy chest scraped once to the right, then back. Finally, the trap door underneath cracked open just an inch, enough to break the seal of silence. The rope hung down into the dark, slack, but ready. She stepped back. You go down there. You won't come up the same. Ellis looked at the letter again. It still said his name. Still wasn't burned. Still wasn't done. I think it's time I saw what this place wants. You think it wants to be seen. I think it wants to be heard. He grabbed the rope, tested it with his weight. It was held. You ain't coming back with answers, she said. Only more questions. I have more questions than I know what to do with already. She didn't argue, just stepped aside. Ellis took the first step down. The dark reached up like water, and then he disappeared. The rope burned cold in Ellis's hands. Each knot slid beneath his fingers like it had been tied by someone who never planned for anyone to climb back up. The air thickened as he dropped lower. Above him, the square of light shrank until it was no bigger than a breath. He didn't ask how deep it went. He just kept going. The walls were wet, but not with water. The stone was slick, breathing, not warm, not cold, just alive in a way that didn't make sense. His boots hit the ground. He turned slowly, expecting nothing, hoping for less. But the well opened wider at the base. A hollowed room carved by hands or by time, maybe both. Bones littered the corners. Not stacked, not buried, just laid out like someone had set them there for later. He stepped past a rib cage, found a child's shoe, untied, a folded coat that hadn't rotted, a rag doll with no eyes. He knelt near the wall, ran his hand along the stone. Then he saw it. His name. Ellis. Carved low. Shallow, but real. Letters rough, like done with a fingernail or a key. Like someone had written it fast, afraid they'd forget how to spell it. He backed away, stumbled over something soft, turned. A shirt. His shirt. One he hadn't worn in years. Still stained at the cuff. Torn at the shoulder from a night he couldn't remember. He dropped it. No, he whispered. No, this ain't real. But the room didn't argue. It just whispered, software from the walls, from the cracks, from the bones. You ain't real. He pressed his palms to his ears. The whisper came again. Neither are you. He screamed. It didn't echo. The room swallowed it. He ran for the rope, pulled. Himself up one knot, then two. The stone scratched his arms. His boots slipped. Something tugged. He kicked hard. The rope groaned. He climbed faster, chest heaving, breath raw. The square of light grew larger, then blinding. He broke through the top, fell onto the floorboards, coughed hard, dragging in the air like it owed him. Then he smelled it. Smoke. He rolled over, eyes wide. The cabin was on fire. Flames licked the curtains, crawled the walls. The letters, those that hadn't been burned, were caught now, curling, blackening. He stumbled to his feet, covered in ash, throat raw, eyes burning. He looked for her, called out once. Nothing. Then he saw the letter on the floor, the last one, untouched. He picked it up, hands shaking. I opened it. Come home. You have been gone long enough. He dropped it. The fire didn't stop. The roof cracked. The walls creaked louder than the well, and the whisper followed him out the door. The fire tore through the roof like it had been waiting years for permission. It didn't rage. It consumed. Slow, patient, deliberate. The way a secret eats through a house. Ellis stood just outside the front porch, smoke crawling up his throat, ash dusting his boots. She was gone. No footprints, no scream, no shadow in the window, just gone. Like she'd never been. Or maybe like she'd been part of the place all along, and now that the place was ending, so was she. He didn't call out. He didn't try to go back in. He just stood there as the walls cracked and fell inward, as the wallpaper peeled in long, curling ribbons, as the wind caught pages midair, letters half burnt, names erased midline, and carried them into the black sky. Only the hearth stayed. The stone around it crumbled, but the fire inside burned steady, like it wasn't part of the destruction, like it belonged to something older, something to watch. He stepped toward it, through the falling ash, through the heat. He knelt. There, inside the flames, lay a small pile of letters, whole, unburned, staring back. He reached for one. It caught fire the second he touched it. No waiting this time. No resistance. It burned fast. Then the next. Then the next, until only one was left. No name, no words, just a blank sheet folded once, clean in the middle. He placed it gently into the flame. It didn't burn, but it didn't refuse either. It waited. Ellis stood, eyes watering, body heavy. He turned away from the hearth and walked. He didn't stop to look back. The fire grew behind him, cracked wood snapping, windows blowing outward with the sound of the house letting go. The trees stood still. The wind didn't return. He crossed the yard, passed the willow tree, stepped through the remnants of the path. No bag, no coat, just the soot on his skin and the letter's ghost pressed into his chest. He walked until the fire only smelled. Then it wasn't even that. He didn't know how long he walked. The sky didn't change. It stayed the color of smoke, and the sun never found its place. He passed broken fences, dry wells, houses with no doors, all empty, all familiar. He kept walking. At some point, his boots stopped crunching over dead grass and hit wood. A porch. He hadn't seen it coming. Just looked up, and there it was. Another cabin. Not the same, but close. Same porch swing. Same cracked windows. Same red twine around the stair rail. He stood there, then climbed the steps. The door opened before he knocked. A woman stood in the doorway. Not her. Not the same, but close. Eyes that had seen too much. Shoulders that had forgotten rest. Hands strong enough to hold a rifle and a child. Maybe both. She looked at him for a long time. Then, "Do you need work?" Ellis swallowed. His voice came quieter than he meant it to. "I clean for food." She didn't nod, didn't smile, just stepped aside. But before he crossed the threshold, she spoke again. "Don't touch the stairs." He looked at them. Same red twine. Same loose knot. He nodded, but the shaking in his hand didn't stop.